A woman stands in the shade of an acacia tree and sweat runs down her spine. She doesn't notice it. You wouldn't either. But somewhere an animal is watching her, and it cannot understand what it's seeing. To a predator built for the African plains, a hairless, dripping human should look wrong, vulnerable, unfinished. Every other creature on this savanna carries a coat built by millions of years of survival. And yet this one animal walks around almost naked, glistening under the sun, like something that shouldn't have made it this far. Most people assume our ancestors lost their fur because they no longer needed it. But that isn't what happened. They lost it precisely because they needed something else more. Somewhere between 2 and 3 million years ago, on the open grasslands of East Africa, something forced a strange trade to happen inside the human body. Protection was exchanged for performance. Insulation was exchanged for stamina. It was a bet against every other mammal on the continent, and it should not have worked. To understand why, you have to imagine the world our ancestors were walking into. Dense forest canopies were thinning. Trees were spreading further apart. The safety of shade was disappearing, replaced by wide, sun-scorched plains, where an upright ape now had to move, exposed, for hours at a time. Fur is an excellent insulator. It traps warmth close to the skin. For a nocturnal predator, or an animal that only needs short bursts of speed, that's an advantage. But what if your survival strategy depends on doing something almost no other mammal can do? What if it depends on chasing prey not for seconds, but for hours? This is where the story turns. Most large predators on the savanna are devastatingly fast, but only for short distances. A cheetah can reach extraordinary speeds, but only for a few hundred meters, before its body begins to overheat catastrophically. Lions stalk and ambush because a prolonged chase would kill them from heat alone. Early humans discovered something different. They discovered persistence. Evidence from anthropological fieldwork on modern hunter-gatherer groups, including studies of the Kalahari Sand people, has documented something called persistence hunting. Humans literally running an animal to the point of physiological collapse, not through speed, but through relentless pursuit under the hottest part of the day when other predators are forced to rest. An antelope can outrun a human easily for the first few minutes. But an antelope cannot release heat efficiently while running. Its body accumulates warmth faster than it can shed it. Eventually, it has no choice but to stop, disoriented, overheating, cornered by an animal that never seemed dangerous in the first place. That animal was covered in cooling valves. Inside human skin sit millions of tiny openings, built for one purpose. Every drop of moisture they release carries heat away before it can cook the muscles beneath. No other large mammal depends on a system quite like this one. Humans carry between 2 and 4 million of these glands, a number that dramatically outpaces almost every other species on Earth. And combined with thinner body hair, it turned the human body into one of the most efficient cooling machines in the animal kingdom. While a cheetah's engine burns out from its own heat, a human's engine can keep running. Stamina became a form of camouflage. Nobody expects the slow animal to be the dangerous one. But this raises an uncomfortable question. If fur was so costly to lose, why do humans still have hair at all? Why keep it on the scalp, the eyebrows, the underarms, when the rest of the body was left nearly bare? This is where the story stops being simple, because losing fur wasn't really about losing hair. It was about relocating it with extraordinary precision. The scalp sits directly beneath the harshest angle of equatorial sunlight for hours a day. Researchers studying thermoregulation in early hominins have proposed that hair covering the head may have shielded the skull from direct solar radiation. The brain, one of the most metabolically expensive organs in the body, may have needed shade precisely while the rest of the skin needed exposure. Two contradictory needs, solved by the same species in the same moment, not through losing all hair, but through choosing exactly where to keep it. The eyebrows, so easily dismissed as decorative, appear to serve a purpose too, channeling sweat and rain away from the eyes, preserving vision at exactly the moments survival depended on seeing clearly. Even the seemingly strange patches of hair beneath the arms and around the groin may preserve scent glands that once helped humans communicate chemically long before language existed. Nothing about the human body's hair pattern appears random. It reads more like a negotiation, hair kept exactly where it served a purpose, and removed exactly where it became a liability. This forces a deeper question to surface. If losing fur was so advantageous, why didn't other primates evolve the same way? Why are chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, still covered head to toe? The difference may lie not in what our ancestors gained, but in the desperate circumstances that forced the change to happen at all. Chimpanzees remained largely within forested environments, where shade regulates temperature and speed over short distances remains a viable strategy. Early hominins were pushed into open, shadeless terrain, where overheating wasn't a minor inconvenience. It was lethal. Evolution rarely rewards comfort. It rewards whatever barely survives an emergency. And an animal walking upright under direct sun for hours, chasing prey across open ground, was running an emergency every single day. There's something unsettling in this. The traits so many people associate with fragility, thin skin, nakedness, a body that shivers in the cold, may be the very traits that once made us formidable. An animal that cools faster can keep moving when everything else has stopped. And an animal that can keep moving when every rival predator has collapsed from heat doesn't need claws. It doesn't need fangs. It only needs to outlast. But here's the detail almost nobody expects. Humans did not actually lose most of their hair follicles at all. Skin samples compared across primates reveal something strange. Humans carry roughly the same density of hair follicles as chimpanzees, spread across nearly the same amount of skin. What changed wasn't the number of follicles. What changed was the kind of hair growing out of them. Across most of the human body, those follicles quietly switched from producing thick, pigmented strands to producing something almost invisible, fine, pale, nearly weightless, vellus hair, so thin it barely interrupts airflow across the skin. We didn't go bald. We went underground, hiding an entire coat in plain sight, reduced to something too delicate to trap heat, but still technically there. And once skin was left exposed like this, a second transformation had to follow almost immediately, or the story would have ended differently. Bare skin under equatorial sun faces a new danger: ultraviolet radiation capable of damaging cells and folate stores essential for reproduction. Evidence from genetic studies of pigmentation suggests that darker, melanin-rich skin likely evolved alongside hair loss, a biological sunscreen appearing almost in step with the very trait that made it necessary. One adaptation created a problem. Another adaptation solved it almost instantly in evolutionary terms. The body wasn't simply exposed. It was re-engineered layer by layer to survive its own exposure. And it wasn't just the skin changing. The feet became spring-loaded, storing energy in an arch that catapults the body forward with every stride. The neck learned to stabilize the skull through a ligament unique among primates, holding the head steady while the body pounded across open ground. The legs learned to store and release energy like a bow releasing an arrow. Little by little, an ape was being rebuilt into a machine, built for relentless movement. Consider what that means about who we are today. Every time sweat gathers on skin during heat, exertion, or even anxiety, it's the echo of a system originally built for chasing prey across scorched earth for hours at a time. Every time hair remains exactly where it still serves a purpose, on the scalp, along the brow, it's a remnant of a negotiation struck between two competing needs, solved through precision rather than uniform coverage. It seems almost poetic that the trait so often perceived as human weakness, our exposed, nearly hairless skin, may in fact be one of the clearest fingerprints of a species that once outlasted animals stronger, faster, and better armed than itself. We rarely think of persistence as dangerous. We associate danger with speed, with teeth, with claws. But perhaps the most dangerous animals were never the fastest ones. Perhaps they were simply the ones who refused to stop. The next time sweat runs down your spine in the heat, it's worth remembering what that sensation once meant. Not weakness, not vulnerability. It was the sound of a hunter still moving, long after everything else had already given up.